Hey guys, this is Vanessa. My podcast is Life Paranormal with me. Listen as I serve you all things spirit, paranormal, and unexplained. Join me every other Saturday as my guest host and I recount our own experiences that will perplex and utterly terrify you. Life Paranormal with me is available on all major platforms such as Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Join the Lifer fam by following me on Twitter at VLifeParanormal. Follow, like, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you can always catch a ride on this spooky vibe.
Before we begin this week's episode, I'd like to start with a content warning. This podcast includes foul language and includes discussions of violent crimes. Some topics may be triggering and may include depictions of sexual assault, gore, torture, suicidal ideation, or discussions of mental health. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
Definitely some reformation when it comes to that, because that shit, if you're going to be in a place of power, fuck that. No, you should be held accountable. And if you drop the ball in a case, you should be held accountable for it. And in fact, you should apologize and then do your best to actually finish what you should have started this whole time.
On October 16th, 2021, a close-knit family received news that would shatter their world for the rest of their lives.
On top of this, the local police department left the family with way more questions than answers.
Something clearly bizarre has happened, but police, per usual, skimped a bit on an investigation and were quick to mark this as a suicide. This seems to be a common theme this month.
The family described this woman as a tenacious, vocal, and God-fearing woman who wanted nothing more than fairness and justice. She often spoke out against injustices that occurred, at least those that she had known of.
We don't often do two-part episodes, but due to the extensive research and details of this case, as well as a full interview with her daughter and her niece, this story will indeed come in two parts.
This is the story of Kimbrala Jo Lair, A Nefarious Nightmare presents Deep Ellum, Nightscare on Elm Street, Part 1.
Ahead of this, we'd like to let you all know that even Carissa, you'll all get to meet her in a bit, will tell you, quote for quote, there are just so many twists and turns we've run into. It almost feels like insanity, end quote. So there will be some jumping around from event to event.
Holy shit. Yeah. Yes, y'all. This case is pure insanity. Try to keep up because you guys will hear me say the word clusterfuck several times. And also, guys, we don't have top-of-the-line interview equipment, so I apologize in advance about the interview's audio quality. But, go join our Patreon and help us out.
Oh, and real quick, we did get some reviews and also a new Patreon member.
Yes.
And other updates, but we're going to save that for the end of this episode, so stay tuned.
And I want to preface all of this by saying that my friend Kristina Frazier had made me aware of this case. She shared a TikTok with me, and Kristina is a childhood friend of Carissa's sister, and I really felt kind of a connection to this, because everybody involved in this has some humongous and sweet hearts, and they just like everybody else, they deserve justice. So, I did some digging, and this shit it's nuts.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely bonkers.
Faux show.
The following is a clip from Presley McCary from her TikTok. A follower had asked her if there were any updates on her Aunt Kim's case, and this is her response.
Thank you for asking this question, first of all. And if y'all don't know, my aunt's body was found under a bridge in Dallas, Texas in the middle of October of this year. So there's a video on my page explaining what the police have basically said happened. They're sticking with their story that she was up on the freeway and she fell between the two bridges onto the ground, and that is what happened. My family still doesn't believe that. We don't see a reason why she would have been walking miles on a freeway and then just happened to fall. I don't know. And the police have refused to check any security cameras in the area. They have refused to speak to any leads on people that we think may have been the last one to see her alive. They are completely ruling out foul play. They say there was no foul play at all. We also don't understand how if a body is found under a bridge, how they can just instantly say there was no foul play. But that's what they're doing, Dallas Police Department. That's really all we know at the moment. They said her death was undetermined, but there was no foul play. So I guess we're kind of like just don't know what to do. There's not much that we can do without the police's help. So maybe if we get this video out there, it will give them a little push to actually help. We've talked to them. We're like, she has a family that cares about her and loves her. We want to know what happened, and they aren't doing anything. But thank you for asking.
Kimbrala Jo Lair was born February 4th, 1968 in Hunt County, Texas. Her father, Idis Lair, a Dallas firefighter who later passed from esophageal cancer as a result of smoke inhalation due to a mask that wasn't well ventilated, delivered his daughter on the side of I-30, which is a highway that runs through Hunt County, as well as Dallas County and some parts of Tarrant County.
Growing up, Kimbrala idolized Farrah Fawcett. She was a cheerleader, played volleyball, and also varsity basketball at Raines High School in Emory, Texas. She was popular, but also very kind to people. She had a firecracker type of spirit and was always warm and inviting to those she had encountered. From a very young age, she always spoke up if she didn't feel like something was fair, which was a seed planted to where, to the very end of her life, she always spoke up against injustices.
Carissa describes her mom as follows, quote, "My mom was extremely tenacious, a ball of energy, and a firecracker. She quite often spoke up about injustices and would always take a stand for what was right and made sure to tell everyone else to do so as well. She was a very involved grandmother, lovingly known as their Lola, to her two grandkids. She loved to play baseball, basketball, and soccer with them outside. She also always took them for bike rides and generally just enjoyed being outdoors with them. They were her whole world. My mom also battled with a history of mental illness that she had not been taking her medication for the last few years. Her way of dealing with her own demons was by reading the Bible and writing. She carried around paper and pens so she could write her prayers and praise down no matter where she was at. She truly persevered through her own battles, and no matter how grim things looked, she would always say, 'God is so good, praise his name.'"
Brittainy describes her aunt as follows, quote, "She was feisty, kind, giving, caring, ambitious, sweet, thoughtful, tenacious, silly, stubborn, and beautiful inside and out. She loved deeply and dearly," end quote.
One of the first things Carissa said to me was, quote, "Our family is all super close. We always joke that our moms were sisters, but it's like we are sisters too. We live out in the country, so it's me, her, our other cousin, and our aunt, my mom's baby sister, and we all live in the same county road, and our land is all adjoined. It's like a little commune out here. So it does not come as a shock that the entire family has stepped up wondering what had happened."
Brittainy and Carissa both remember her always whistleblowing acts of injustices, as well as making phone calls to Governor Greg Abbott to get the point across. While she was well liked by the majority of people she was around, she was always a thorn in the side of law enforcement.
Oh, that she was. From her daughter, Carissa, quote, "Mom wasn't close with any police officers. In fact, she was quite loud about dirty cops, dirty attorneys, and crooked insurance companies. Very loud. A big thorn in Tarrant and Dallas County's side. She also had been trying to get a hold of Governor Abbott about it all, left many messages and emails for him, and coincidentally, he called her back on the day that her body was found. Like she had been trying to reach him for months. And the last 3 weeks before her death, she actually called him every single day.
And she goes on to say, quote, "And a lot of her messages were not nice, but she was so angry at that point. But then again, literally on her caller ID, Governor Abbott's office shows up as a missed call the day she died," end quote.
One thing to be said right now, Carissa and Brittainy both hold fast to this statement. They do feel that law enforcement doesn't owe their mom or their aunt anything, but they do owe it to her father, who fought loyally as a firefighter alongside law enforcement as their ally. Basically, they want answers. Please don't turn your back on one of your own.
Another thing to mention is that their mom used to keep little notes. There were some that were written in events leading up to what is believed to be a murder. Mm-hmm. If we can retrieve those, we will include that in the Instagram and Facebook pages we have. In fact, we are collecting every bit of pictures and such that were shared because we want everyone here to help figure this out.
And this is Carissa Ray, Kimbrala's daughter, and Brittainy Thomas, Kim's niece.
I am Carissa. I am the daughter of Kim Lair, 33 years old. I live in Emory, Texas. Got my 2 kids, my 12-year-old son Keegan and my 3-year-old daughter Cadence, who were my mom's love affairs. And so, here just trying to, get answers and justice for her and for them, really. They missed their Lola, so.
I'm Brittainy. I am the niece of Kim, and I'm a 36-year-old mother of 2. I just graduated with my master's in organization, leadership, and technology. I'm sorry, I mean forensics, I wish. But so we have kind of started, this investigation with, my aunt, and we're going to do whatever it takes to find some clarity and justice for her case.
Kristina actually is a childhood friend of my sister's. And so we've been posting stuff on Facebook and, just trying to go viral in a sense. And she came across some of our posts and was like, is it okay if I share this? And it's like, oh my gosh, no, yes, absolutely. That's exactly what we want. And so I was very, very thankful, for her message and for, all of that leading up to it. So, but she grew up with my sister and I've known her since, I don't know, we were probably 9 years old.
On the evening of October 13th, 2021, around 9:30 p.m., Kim went for a walk.
Walks weren't an unusual occurrence because she used to do this from time to time to exercise and clear her head. She had suffered chronic neck and back pain, and that was a result of an accident that she'd had a few years before, which resulted in a hangman's fracture that never healed correctly. She often had trouble sleeping at night because of the pain, so she used this as a way to tire herself out.
She had left in a pair of pajama pants, a Dallas Fire Department t-shirt, and a tan windbreaker jacket, tennis shoes, and $21 in her pocket.
Kim was living with her mother at this time, the girl's grandmother, and the grandmother initially had said that she didn't go to sleep and left the door unlocked for Kim when she had come back. Their grandmother then said she hadn't seen Kim since it was odd. Kim normally just went on her walk and then would return.
Carissa and Brittainy would find out later, based off of internet usage, that she did in fact return about an hour later, just to change it to a sweatshirt, some jeans, maybe to put a little makeup on. She had then left with a purse that was described as high-end, and she left close to midnight. This suggested that she went to meet with someone. 2 days after Kim had left for her walk, the clothes she had first left in were found, still damp, in their grandmother's laundry room floor. They had also found a cloth fabric handbag next to the wet clothes, also damp.
On October 16th, Carissa and her family got a call that a body consistent with her mom's had been found. This would be 2 days after she was found, which was 4:17 a.m. on October 14th. She was found by a German national, and when they reached out to try to get in touch with this person, there was no callback number, and he had an international SIM card and cannot be traced. Kim was identified through fingerprints, but this doesn't explain why the call wasn't made until 2 days after the fact. Does it really take 2 days to identify someone by fingerprints?
I mean, you would think that it would just take like a few minutes, right? Because there's a database, you put in your fingerprints, and then usually it'll pop up with a match. You know, I don't. Yeah, I would think so. You would think so, right? But the big question is, what happened between midnight and 4:17 a.m. October 14th, 2021, and why did it take so long for an ID to be made? In true armchair detective fashion, I don't see this as more complicated than it has been made to be, but, you know, we are exactly that. Armchair detectives, right? But here we are, trying with everything we have to get more eyes and ears on this case, because armchair detectives or not, sometimes it just takes the public to do what law enforcement fails to do.
Gabby Petito is a prime example, and I'm not bringing her up for clout. It is a great example because if you look at all the TikTok videos made and all of the comments and theories and such through social media that were made when her case blew up, the result took a collaborative effort between law enforcement and the general public.
Oh, man. And I mean, that case is still kind of huge today.
Yeah.
Even though there's been some like resolution that has come through. I don't know if anybody's watched like the news as of recent, and we won't get into that because this isn't, you know, a case about Gabby Petito. But, you know, if you look at all of this, there's a lot of similarities, basically. You know, some may argue that Gabby Petito was a young woman in an abusive relationship that ended in a murder-suicide. Some may argue many theories as to why Gabby Petito's case is different than Kimbrala Jo Lair, but let's be honest, ignore the details and nuances of age and situation for a second. The similarities are that someone knows something, someone is hiding something, mistakes have been made, so it's kind of up to all of us to stand up as Kim would have and say, no, this is not over.
As soon as they got the call it was Kim's body, Carissa goes on to say, quote, "We hit the ground running and then felt like we just kept hitting brick wall after brick wall. Every answer we found led us to more questions," end quote. And Brittainy was on her way to a concert when she got the call. Here's a clip from the interview.
So, October the 13th, my mom went out for a walk. It was around 9:30 in the evenings. My mom, she always had difficulty sleeping. So she would go for walks just until she was ready for a nap or she could get to sleep for maybe 5 hours. That would be a good night for her. Went for a walk. It was raining that night. I guess it maybe started obviously raining on her. So she went back to her apartment that she shared with her mom, our nanny, and went and changed into nicer clothes and left the apartment again. And she left, it was right around midnight. And from midnight to when she was found at 4:17, that's when the 911 call came in. We don't know what happened. We initially didn't, we were calling jails, we were calling hospitals, we were looking up news articles. Just anything is there a Jane Doe, this, that, the other, everything. Multiple people in our family, to the point where a missing persons report was filed that Friday after that, Wednesday night, Thursday, going into Thursday morning, as well as Saturday morning, Brittainy put in another missing persons report just to make sure that this was done. We were trying to find her. We've been trying to find her for, 48 hours by now. And then it was just a little bit after on that Saturday that we got the phone call that the medical examiner actually had my mom in their possession since that Thursday morning. So whatever happened between 12 a.m. when she left her apartment and when she was found, we don't know. They are saying that she initially fell through the crack of a bridge. We have no answers. They've said it's undetermined.
they're saying, well, we don't know what people do. So we really just don't have any answers of that 4-hour gap. But we didn't find out till 2 days later, pretty much, after, we had just thought my mom was missing. Like, well, maybe, she, was in a park somewhere asleep. Like, we just, we didn't know. We were trying to look up all avenues. And ultimately we got that phone call that, she was no longer with us. So we're just trying to piece together, what happened in, that time. So
Sure. So she, went for a walk and, left the apartment. Initially it was that she maybe had been drinking and left, and just to, smoke a cigarette and come back. Like she said, it was raining, so she, changed clothes, and that was something that I was going to mention. So after our grandmother put in the police report, she had described her in a different pair of clothes than when she was found. So, and when I called and put in a missing persons request, I did that to simply ensure that my grandmother called. I was in Dallas, so I want to make sure I was in the same jurisdiction, and I was. And so they never even called her a missing person. They said a person of interest, to find. And a person to locate. Yes, I'm sorry. So I found that. So I kind of did some research on that. And I guess it's mostly because she is an adult. She doesn't have dementia or anything like that. So I don't feel like they were, doing anything quickly. But, I will mention that this isn't the first time that she has not gone missing, but gone somewhere out to a club, and then some guys tried to take her out one time. We were in Mexico, and she stayed behind on a yacht. The whole family was looking for her. So this, not saying that we didn't treat it with urgency, but it's like she always comes back. So it wasn't something that we were just completely in a frantic about, but I knew something was wrong. It was different this time. And there's a lot of inconsistencies, and I just want to say that the worst form of injustice is pretended justice. And I say that because that is exactly what's happening right now. They're trying to close the case. They're trying to say she fell through a crack of a bridge. Quite frankly, that's not a crack. It's a separation where two major highways split, where an actual person can fit through. It's not a crack. It's, nothing that TxDOT needs to fix. So there was a lot of different things from the detectives, that didn't even add up. And anyway, I was actually in the apartment complex that she lived at, in the office, trying to request surveillance to see if I could see her on surveillance walking, in which way and what time she came back, so we could nail it to a better time. And that's when we got the call. And so, like Carissa said, she was actually found, that very next morning, on October 4th. And there's some inconsistencies for sure. And I know, I hope we can kind of dig into those.
There was a police officer that was helping in a clandestine effort to investigate what had happened. The last they had talked to this officer was November 10th, 2021. His next step was to go to an attorney's office that has surveillance footage that actually faces the bridge Kim was found under. It is important to note here that they had never met this officer in person. They'd only known his last name. He had also responded to their report and then filed the report, but nobody had ever met with him. They'd spent time trying to find him all over social media, but again, they don't have his first name or know what he looks like, and his last name is fairly common, so this was an unfortunate conclusion for them. It's believed that he was found out, maybe got in trouble. That detail is unknown, but he just went ghost town.
So Carissa goes on to say, quote, "Police never questioned anyone and also told us that there was no surveillance in the area, which is not true. There is a ton of surveillance, but they basically made up their mind from the get-go that she was some sort of homeless drug abuser up to no good. And may I say that even if that had been the case, those people are still just that. people, and no one deserves to be completely disrespected like that upon their death. We were turned away from the police department the first Monday we showed up to get some answers, as well as the detective hung up on my cousin as we were in the DPD lobby, begging with her to allow someone to speak with us, since she was not there to do so. Quote,
Carissa and Brittainy then tried to retrieve the footage on their own. At first, the attorney's office was going to give it to them, but then they changed their minds because they no longer had any police involvement. So this is where, that officer that they were talking about, he went ghost town. It would be the same for other businesses around them. Some would do it, but others wouldn't review the footage without police involvement. Carissa offered the main detective on this case all of the information, but unfortunately, she wrote nothing down, refused to follow any of the leads that they had possibly had. I mean, she just basically kind of poo-pooed them.
Carissa also says, quote, we as a family decided to get our own independent autopsy the minute that the Dallas ME released my mom. I still do not have the Dallas or independent full autopsy reports, but I do have a prelim reports from ours. Both pathologists have labeled manner of death as undetermined. We have a lot of theories as to what could have happened to her because she was walking at night, possibly been struck by a taller vehicle, and then placed under the bridge. I say taller vehicle because of her injuries that are from the pelvis and up. No leg injuries whatsoever. She may have met up with someone and then was trying to potentially get away from them, so she ran or jumped out of their vehicle while on the bridge. We've explored the fact that someone could have incapacitated her and possibly thrown her from the bridge, as well as we've thought that maybe someone just intentionally hurt her and then placed her where she was. The height from the fall is 28 feet. That's including over the guardrails. She has no lower injuries and no skull fractures, which we find odd for a fall. End quote.
I was supposed to be going to a Styx concert. I had VIP tickets to Styx. I stayed at a Airbnb, the Topanga, 90s Airbnb in Dallas, Styx concert. And before we left, we had to go check the apartments, but that's what our plans were. But then after we found out, of course we went. I think for me personally would be that we're going to get, exactly realistic. I knew she didn't fall from a bridge because she would have to walk over 5-lane traffic. And so her apartment was a mile from the location, and it didn't immediately. I knew then because when we first heard was she was found, and I called the patrol officer that I talked to about the missing persons report and said, hey, I want to know who fucking did this, language, because that's what I said. I said, I want to know who did it. I started hitting the steering wheel, almost broke my hand. And he's like, I didn't know that she was found. And so he called me back and he said, this whole crack of a bridge has just haunted me because it's not correct terminology. And there's just no way. Physically, there's no that it was, she fell from a...
Well, initially I got the feeling that I knew something was wrong with Mom when she didn't show up that Thursday night to her grandson's game, his football game. She came in every single weekend, like clockwork. Thursday nights, didn't go home until after family dinner Sunday night. So she essentially was only in Dallas Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. She was here. And that was big. She always looked forward to that, going and cheering on her grandson's football games. And when she didn't make it, okay, something's really, really, really wrong. And then once we found out, I think it was that we found out on a Saturday. She was found Thursday morning. We found out a Saturday afternoon. And it was that very next Monday morning that we were at the Dallas Police Department trying to get answers. We were turned away. Brittainy was hung up on by the homicide detective. And so we went searching for our own answers. We went underneath the bridge. Anywhere my mom could have walked, anywhere. And we ran into people who had seen the crime scene And we were taking notes. And it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up. And it was probably when the very first person we talked to, he was a construction worker, spoke broken English, but he kept pointing up.
He didn't even have the address that she was found. They said under I-75 and I-45. The cops want me with this. I said, do you not have an address? So they didn't. And so we sniffed it out our own. We were walking underneath this bridge for an hour and a half where people started seeing these two girls kind of on a mission, I was digging in the dirt trying to find this glass. We were just standing there looking up, and that's when what she was about to say is this construction worker.
Yes. So, and he kept pointing up.
We felt ignored. She actually left notes written in red on notebook paper until they were wet because they were dry and crinkly. I just started putting all of her stuff in a bag. She wrote things like candy apple red van. This is the end, Jesus.
Not cement, back of head.
She put not cement, K-N-O, not cement, back of head. She found all these. So when we found these the next day, and that next Tuesday, we made an appointment to see the homicide detective, we brought them for her to look at, take a picture of, put in her file. She didn't write notes down. She didn't ask us who she dating. She didn't ask us anything. She had no interest. She was cold.
She actually said, do you want me to make copies of them? And it was like,
actually, I already made a copy for you.
Copies. Yeah. She already made copies. You can have the original if you want. And she just stepped out, made copies. And I said, well, I have this. I took a picture of this. My mom said, I feel like someone is watching me in middle of all of her notes. The only other, there's only a couple things that were like that. And I said, well, do you want this? And the homicide detective was like, well, I mean, I guess you can send it to me through text since you have my number. And it was like, at that point, you're not going to do anything with it. So I'm not even going to waste my energy. Like, you don't care.
I actually started asking questions when we were down there with a construction worker. This other guy came. He could tell us, I won't give much detail just because. Oh, she stands right here, about right here to my truck. And we're like, show him a picture of her. He's like, yeah, that's her last week. And we were like, wait, what? She
died last week. What do you mean you saw her last week?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And so anyways, I was like, he's like, you've seen her? She's been down here before? He took a picture of the crime scene, 2 pictures where she's in a body bag. He shows, and I said, can you send those to me? He's like, yeah. And so we sent them. And so on that Tuesday, you haven't checked surveillance. You lied to me and said there was no surveillance. We found 11 cameras on Google. We walked and found cameras. We were asking shops for their footage. And even the owner said, I'm so
literally
sorry.
Like grooming shops, storage buildings. I mean, literally all of it. And it's like, you're saying that there's not one.
They all have cameras, every single one of them.
It's Dallas. It's deep Ellum. It's like Sin City. It's like Sin City inside of a major hub. Like it's a city that never sleeps. There are cameras everywhere. There's always someone awake. There's something going on, literally constantly. And you're saying there's absolutely nothing that you can look into? That's bullshit.
Yeah, you're lying to us. You're lazy and you're not doing your job. It's how you have a responsibility.
And what her sergeant told us on Monday when she would not meet with us that first initial day that we went, we found out Saturday, we're there 9 a.m. Monday morning. Finally, she gave clearance for her sergeant to talk to us. Well, sergeant comes out, doesn't tell us anything. We ask questions, nothing, can't, the integrity of the investigation. Okay, cool. So maybe there's an investigation going on. And he was like, your homicide detective just caught no, they don't know. He literally said, she just caught a capital murder case this morning, is in the middle of scraping the bottom of Lake Levon. I'm sorry. We've had 7 homicides in 7 days. Well, my mom is one of your homicide cases. So does that not mean to be followed up on? Like, we're one of the families. Does that not count? We're one of the 7 in 7 days. Another thing that I want to clarify about one of the people that my mom had started seeing, now I just had to go in and pull up the messages. So our nanny, my mom's mom, messaged him at basically noon on Thursday. She was found at 4 a.m. in the morning, messaged him on noon, or called him, and he messaged, said, "Can I call you later?" And she said, "Have you heard from Kim? This is her mother. I haven't seen or heard from her since last night. I'm worried about her. Thank you." He said, "No, I haven't. She came by my house Wednesday, but I was not home." And then he corrected himself and said, "Sorry, Tuesday." She said, "Okay, thanks. If you hear from her, please let me know that she is okay." He said, "Okay, I will do that." She said, "Thank you so much." Number one, initially he said Wednesday. Wednesday night is when she went out, and then basically, past that Thursday morning. Then he corrects himself to Tuesday. So then she messages him again on October the 23rd. So from the 14th to the 23rd, no interaction. And she said, Kim was murdered early Thursday morning between 3 and 5 a.m. I'm heartbroken and devastated. No suspects at this time. And he literally did not message back. This is someone who had slept with my mom, who had gone out to the bar with my mom, changed his date. He literally ghosted. Just nothing. Not an, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I was just, it's the weirdest thing. It is. And we go by his house, we drive by, because I found it on Google Earth, of course. And where he's staying has a second floor balcony. I'm not saying one way or another, but I'm saying the possibilities are endless. But it's the weirdest thing. Why would you not respond to that text message?
It's a straight shot too, from his apartment to that bridge underneath.
From the research we've done, the same one whose dad works for a German investment company.
He's much younger, much younger.
29.
That's younger than
me.
her daughter. Yeah, that's not like her.
Dad works for a German investment company. They all drive German made vehicles, and she was found by a German national. Really? No. So the officer that was helping us, when he ran his name when we were on the phone. I said, "I just need you." I said, something's off. Please just run it. He did. I mean, I'm telling you, this officer, he was a godsend for a month. And he looked it up and he goes, "I can tell you this kid, he has absolutely, there's nothing on his record. It's his record has been expunged." I said, "Well, that's funny, because I've reverse looked him up on Been Verified just by his phone number, and literally found out he has 2 DUIs, got fired from his job, seems to be on a downward spiral." But from him, what he's looking up on his actual police computer in his unit, can't see any of that. I'm like, how do I see it, but you don't? It's weird.
Where the blood spot was found was 6 feet underneath the bridge. So she can't fall fly this way over it.
You fall. You don't go, and you're not
6 feet
under the bridge itself, and you're down here. So it's like this. Think of it literally. That's what it was. Here it is. Here she is. How do you do that?
So she was talking about how they had explored several theories, and I will tell everybody right now that my theory is very closely related to the last one that they said, which is basically somebody may have intentionally hurt her and moved her. But, we'll explore that, in part 2. But at this point, we do beg the question, do you all have theories as to what happened, and why did it take so damn long for anyone to get any answers? I mean, this seems like yet another case where law enforcement may have either way too much on their plate or are just flat out lazy. But either way, and we have said this before, law enforcement are sworn in to protect and to serve. But before we get too deep into this, before we fly off of the handle, there is way more into this case that may change some minds or viewpoints, and we'll dive into that in part 2.
Really quick, we'd like to shout out Beaver Bailey, our first Patreon.
Hi, Beaver. That's my sister, by the way.
Hello.
Hi.
Also, we have some reviews. This one comes from Canada.
Hey.
Hey.
Sorry.
I was like, are you going to say the screen name? Because it starts with A. You said
What
A.
about it? What about it? I'm just kidding. I love you, Canada.
So it's user AU1294, who I believe is Alex from Weird Distractions podcast, and who we will be doing a collaboration episode with soon.
Hi, Alex.
He says, quote, definitely recommend. And it is 5 stars.
Okay.
So it says, for those who enjoy learning about true crime and the paranormal, I'd highly recommend this podcast. Amanda, let's see, where's my name?
Yeah.
Amanda and Courtney really make you feel like you're sitting around with your friends just hanging out, but you learn something as well. Great job, ladies. Can't wait to hear more great content from you.
Alex, thank you so much. I'm blushing. We'll see you on that collaboration episode, girl. We also got another review from, forgive me, 1111 Lee 1111, and I think that's from Designated Quizzers podcast. So she gave us 5 stars. She says, really nicely done. A real comfort listen for those of us who thrive on true crime. I love the background noise of the crackling fire and bugs. It felt like being around a campfire listening to scary stories, but the stories are real. Great voices, great content. Give them a listen. Will not disappoint.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I love that one.
Yeah.
So sweet. All right, so one more review. 5 stars from AB2793. Who I believe is Manic Pixie Weirdo.
Hey, girl.
Hey. All right, so, quote, fantastic. All right, these ladies are the best. I love their chemistry and the back and forth between them. LOL, my husband watches Minecraft videos too.
Hey.
Hey. So, I also really appreciate the care and time they put into the show. It really comes through on each episode. I would definitely recommend this show.
We try.
Well, I'm over here throwing Sharpies at my computer. I don't know if everybody could hear that.
You all are the best. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amanda.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have an ending quote for this episode?
No. I'm just kidding.
Bye. No kidding.
The quotes are my favorites.
Okay.
All right. Quote. Whatever you do, always give 100% unless you're donating blood.
Okay, before I guess who this is, let me tell you why this quote is perfect for part 1 of this episode, of this series, little part 2, or whatever. I can't talk. But let me tell you why. Because if the law enforcement that we've been talking about is listening to this, then I dedicate that quote to you. Whatever you do, always give 100% unless you're donating blood. So I'm going to guess that this is Betty White. No? Oh, Mr. T.
Nope. I'm purposely not putting the people on here anymore just to actually make Courtney really guess.
Okay, my husband. He's a legend.
I love it. Yes, Nate.
Thanks, Nate. That was a great quote. You're very smart. So who was it really?
Drum roll. There you go. Bill Murray.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Legend.
I was very close when I said my husband. All right. Well, you guys, make sure you keep your ears out for part 2. This is a case that we need everybody's eyes and ears on. Make sure you share the shit out of it. We owe that to Kimbrala Jo Lair. So in the meantime, don't be a fucking dick.
And wear deodorant.
All right. Yeah. Like, bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to A Nefarious Nightmare. All research done for this podcast, depending on the episode, is written by Amanda Cronin and Courtney Fenner. Scripting, editing, mastering, and sound design are done by Courtney Fenner. If you would like to visit our links, merch store, or social media, please either go to www.anefariousnightmare.com or to our link tree. That's linktr.ee/A Nefarious Nightmare Podcast. Music used for our intro and exit is by Ghost Stories Incorporated. You may find their music at bandcamp.com. Additional backing music for today's episode was provided by Epidemic Sound. Please consider leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts to help us expand our audience. Thank you very much for listening, and take care.